Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success talk show. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. Slay to Success is a business, y'all, okay, where we advise and empower women professionals, especially women veterans, to step into their most authentic personal brand to gain lucrative opportunities. And how we get there, we focus on appearance, behaviors, communication skills, and our digital presence. And tonight, y'all, I have a slay amazing guest, okay? Because this show features men and women who have decided to go out on their own terms and use the slay philosophy. So you ask, what is slay? The word slay, if you look up into the Urban Dictionary, means to kill it, to dominate it, to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, to dream big and work hard until you own it. Now, because I'm a little bit extra, I made it into an acronym. And so each of the letters stands for a philosophy that really resonates with me the most. And so they are stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, a sense of family, and you are built to last. I am a professional keynote speaker, an author of 4 different books. Yes, y'all, the number keeps increasing. Every time I look around, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll contribute to an anthology or write another book. I absolutely love that. I'm also a personal brand expert, a certified image consultant, and last but not least, a United States Air Force veteran of 30 years. And so when I retired, I decided that I wanted to help support, advise, empower women in particularly, so that way we don't feel like we're invisible. We don't feel forgotten. We have so much expertise, skills, and techniques, I guess, if you will, that we have been able to navigate through this life to use in the next chapter. All right. So I help women in transition. I help women in leadership roles. I help women who are looking to start a business and to just be something that they've never been before. So, enough about all that. Tonight, what we're really here for is to bring in a guest. And y'all, I have met so many slay amazing people, especially women. And so I met our guest at the NASDAQ in entrepreneurial milestone maker. We had this group. It was a cohort. And I just said, hey, y'all, I've got this platform that I have people come in and talk. And she was one of the very first ones to say, I want to be on the show. And so we're going to have her on the show. So if you are with us tonight, y'all, please do not be shy. All right. I want to know where you're tuning in from. Let me know. All right. Drop your name into the chat, where you're streaming live in from, so that way that I can acknowledge you for being here with us. So let's just get started into this, because I know it's Sunday night, y'all, and I know it's basketball. I was going to say basketball. You know AJ is in basketball, but it's football season, okay? So I know some of us are watching football. So let me just tell you who we have. We have an attorney in the house. This is the very first time we've had an attorney on the show. Her name is Benedicta Agyemang, and she is the founder and principal immigration attorney at Rehoboth. And she's going to correct me on the pronunciation, all right, when she gets here, okay? But she's attorney at Rehoboth Law PLLC, an immigration law firm that represents clients in all 50 states and outside of the U.S. As an immigrant from Ghana, she is passionate about advocating for immigrants. She fiercely represents her clients and uses all legal avenues to get their immigration needs resolved. Attorney Benny, that is her AKA nickname, if you will, is a graduate of Georgetown Law, where she focused on human rights and women's rights. After law school, she clerked in the Florence Immigration Court via the Department of Justice, which is the DOJ. And y'all, we've heard the DOJ on TV so many times over the past year or so, right? She was through that DOJ honors program where she received extensive training in immigration law. Attorney Benny also attended CUNY John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where she graduated graduated cum laude and was awarded the Leonard Reisman Medal, the highest graduating honor given to the outstanding member of the senior class for distinguished scholarship and exceptional service. Attorney Benny is a staunch human rights and women's rights advocate. She is a certified life coach and a pre-law coach, assisting students with the pre-law application process. Attorney Benny consults for corporations, for churches, and nonprofit organizations on a variety of legal issues. She is also the founder of Rehoboth Hope Foundation, a nonprofit organization in Ghana that supports special needs children and their parents. Currently, this foundation is building an orphanage in Pram Pram. And she's going to correct me on all the pronunciation, y'all. 10% of these proceeds goes to the foundation and its projects. Without further ado, okay, because there is a lot that she's doing, and I don't want to miss out on any of the things. Let's bring Benedicta to the stage. Hi, Queen.
Hi everyone. How are you?
Hello. We got
Hi.
Chevy here. Hello, Queen. How you doing this evening?
Hello.
Thank you for joining us live.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I just know that there were so many of us in that cohort that are just very like deep backgrounds, like
Hmm.
have a lot of experience and expertise. And I'm just so honored to have someone with of your caliber come here to speak with us on our show. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
The honor is mine. I look forward to interacting and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, you're welcome. So, this is going to be free flow conversation. Y'all, we out here, we just talking, right? So, if anytime you want to ask her a question or if you want to stop us as we're talking, please feel free to do so. Hey, stories of unapologetic confidence. How you doing tonight? Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for being here with us live. And Chevy says she's doing well and she's looking forward to this conversation.
Nice.
Yes. Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself, that I didn't read in the bio.
Right. So I'm initially from Ghana. I came to the US when I was 18. And then I came to the US, then I went to undergrad, then I went to law school. And I loved law school. It was great. And I always wanted to do human rights, women's rights. A part of me has always loved the idea of justice. A part of me has always been like people should be treated fairly. People should not be taken advantage of. People should not just bully people around. So as a young girl, I've always had that behind, just known that because like I would hear stories of, let's say, like someone died, and back in Ghana back in the day, usually men were the breadwinner winners. So it was like, if your husband dies, you're like screwed, right? And
Mm,
I used to hear stories of, let's say, like a man died and he didn't leave a will, and then his family members just came and like threw the woman out of the house. And then I'm like, that's not right. So as a little girl, like something I didn't know that was law, but a part of me just felt that some things were not right. People need to get what they deserve. People need to be treated fairly. So I had that at the back of my mind, and I just grew up and I'm like, oh, law, maybe that's what I want to do. And after law school, I did DOJ honors. That's when they put you in one of the DOJ departments. And as Providence would have it, or as God will have it, or as the universe will have it, I was put in the immigration court. And I loved it. I'm like, oh, this is really, really interesting. And of course, as an immigrant myself, I could really relate to a lot of things. And I know that this is actually a very timely topic because elections just happened and
mm-hmm,
that we know won, and he has made it very vocal
mm-hmm.
that immigrants are not really, yeah, his stance on immigration is clear. So after law school, I clerked for 2 years. I loved it. And somehow I went into being a corporate attorney, right? Because money, right?
Yeah.
Really? So I went into being a corporate attorney. So I was a corporate attorney from 2020 actually to 2024. And in 2021, I opened my firm on the side. And I did it while I was a corporate attorney. And one of the reasons I was able to do it because there was no conflict of interest. A lot of times most lawyers can do stuff on the side because of the conflict of interest. But
Right.
there's none between immigration and corporate law. Like I was representing companies and it was just so far-fetched. So it worked for me that I could be a corporate attorney and I handle things like I was a transactional attorney specifically. So I will review contracts, I'll review MSAs like master agreements, vendor agreements. Every time we are buying something with somebody, our procurement, every time the company was buying something from a different company, those words that review the paperwork, make sure everything is okay. And vice
Right.
versa, every time we wanted to procure services from somebody else, we'll go through it and make sure that the laws were correct, like we are comfortable with the terms of like bailing, we are comfortable with the jurisdiction, if we should get hauled into court, things like that. And I did immigration on the side up until this year, actually, in June, where I was like, it was a lot. It was a lot doing both, for one thing. And just this year, actually, I just decided to just take a leap of faith. So pray for me.
Oh, look. Our listeners in here, they already probably taking notes and they're like, who is this woman? I need to contact her. Like, I got some legal
um,
issues right now. But
right?
yeah.
I decided to take a leap of faith and just open, like, focus, because I actually opened my firm in 2011, but it was kind of something I did like on the sides, on the weekends, pick up a case here and there. But this year I just decided to just do it fully, and which is one of the reasons that I joined the NASDAQ program, because I was like, okay, I want to meet other amazing women that are doing amazing stuff. So professionally, that's how my journey has been thus far, and I love it. It's been great. um I see myself as still learning. I am grateful for what I get to do. The number of times that I see that one of my clients' application I've gotten approved, and I it feels like it's mine. Like I really love what I do. I love the fact that I help people get like their status in place, and then it frees them up to open businesses, right?
Yeah.
To join the army, to go see their parents, to raise kids, to work on the street freely and not be scared of ICE. So I genuinely love what I do, and I'm so grateful that I am in a place where I get to do that.
Yeah. Y'all, this was so good. Did you hear all the things? I'm just in awe. I really am. Because, first of all, you're from another country,
Right.
right? So you didn't grow up here in the US, didn't know anything about it until you were 18.
Yeah.
From there, you decided you wanted to go into law, and you are doing exceptionally well in this field, especially as a Black woman. And I really applaud you for taking the legal system on, if you will, and helping and impacting so many lives, because there's such a great need. There's such a great need. And when you were talking about how the man is the breadwinner in Ghana, and that when if something happened, that other family members would come in and take over, and seeing that from a young girl's eyes, how that that is a significant event, almost traumatic, a very
Right.
traumatic event to be occurring, and it's still occurring. So, like, how did you take that? I mean, what were some of the feelings that you had when you saw that? And is that something that is still built in? Like, still, like, I have a feeling that probably is, but I'm just very interested in the culture.
Right. So I was young, so I didn't have the words to articulate it, but I just knew that this wasn't right. And it just wasn't that. It was also things like I'll hear things like female genital mutilation, right? And
Ah,
I was and my so not to date myself or anything, but I just turned 30. So this was think about 20 something years ago. This was a while ago. So things are a lot better, thankfully. By no means am I trying to paint like Ghana or Africa as like, oh, poor
right,
people.
right, right. Oh,
They
yeah, yeah.
they out there living their best lives.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but 20 something years ago, like it really was a thing. And for me, I couldn't really articulate it, but a part of me just felt like this wasn't fair, and this just couldn't be, or this just shouldn't be, and there should be ways, and
Yeah.
there should be avenues. And I feel the same way right now when people, like, I had a consult this week in immigration. There's something called VAWA, VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act, and it helps people that have been victims of, let's say that I don't have papers, like I'm out of status, and I get married, and the person is a US citizen or a green card holder, knowing damn sure that I ain't got papers. So what he gonna do? Use that as a tool to abuse me. Because he
Mm-hmm.
knows, especially, and there's somebody we know coming into bar, he knows that I'm scared,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
and people tend to turn that into abuse and manipulation, because in their mind, where you gonna go? Like, and people are out there scared, especially with Trump. I feel like, oh my god, if I even just call 911, Trump will show up. That's how scared people are, so people, and it's always been a human trait to dominate others. It's always been a human trait to use an upper hand over somebody else, and we've seen it
Yeah.
happen. We read history, women of color, black people, we've seen it happen time and time and time again. It
Yeah.
manifests in different ways, but it's always been human behavior to just take
Yeah.
advantage of the other person. So a lot of cases we get that, where people come, and especially when, like, their spouses know that you ain't got papers. What are you gonna do? Who are you gonna report me to? Who's gonna believe you? Like, and I'm just gonna stay here and with you and just frustrate you as long as I can,
Mm-hmm.
because guess what? If you're good to me and if I feel like it, I could apply for a green card for you. And which is a right people should get legally. Like, if you genuinely married somebody with a green card, it kind of comes with a package, right?
Right.
Mhm. And people are just like, watch me screw you up, literally. And
Oh,
every time I hear a story like that, that little girl in me of this is not fair comes up. It
yeah.
literally comes up. And that's why I'm so privileged to do what I do. The number of times where, and people are literally almost hopeless, right? Because of fear, and because they watch the news, and because they had what happened during the election, and things like mass deportation, right? And things like that. And people are like, oh my God, and I don't have status, and I got married. And it's both ways. I've assisted victims that are actually male, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got married to this lady or this guy, or even same sex, whatever it is, when the other
Yeah.
person who was your spouse or your child or your parent is literally using your immigration status against you. So when I get those cases and they come to me, it it bothers me. I think that's the word. I'm just really bothered, and I'm grateful that I am in a position to use the law to
Yeah.
help such people, because a lot of people don't even know it's a thing. I'm like, oh, it's actually a thing. Like, you XYZ, like we could do XYZ, and then almost always, like clockwork, their first question is always, is he gonna know? Because he's gonna,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can show, you can, like, the fear is almost tangible. Like, I'm so scared of this person. And I'm like, no, they don't have to know that. And that is the law. And the law was literally put in place to protect, like, it's called Violence Against Women Act. So to protect women victims. Right now, it helps men and all. But I'm just so grateful every time I can do something like that. Or um when I get like an asylum client, somebody is rushing, like run away from the country because they're being persecuted due to all kinds of things. It can be their political opinion. For
Mm-hmm.
example, Ghana just finished their elections yesterday, and I was just thinking, like, oh my God, it could be political opinion where people are like, you represent this party and I don't, and I'm going to kill you because of that, or I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to torture you. Because something that we must understand is that a while ago, before most African countries became democratic, Ghana included a while ago, it
Mm-hmm.
was leadership. So it's like you literally, like the way you and I can just sit down and be like, oh, did you vote? Who did you vote for? No, I didn't. You couldn't do that. It's like you got one option. Literally,
Mm.
you got one option. And dare you be like, I don't really like the way this. Oh no, you're going to die the following day. Like it was not an option.
Wow.
It's not an option. I'm talking about years ago, like years ago. So then I still have or some in some people's countries it's still going on. So I still have, and the way we can just speak on social media freely. Some countries are still being censored, and some countries you literally dare not speak against the person in power because you're gonna be dead, literally
Mm.
or something. Sometimes I get clients like that who are facing like past persecution in their countries, or they have a fear. Because, for example, if you and I are in the same political party and we both support XYZ and you have a talk show, or let's say I came on the talk show when I talked trash about maybe like Trump, and the
Mhm.
following day I got killed. You are going to be like, nah, I'm next in line because I was there with her.
Wow.
So us together. So if she got killed,
You're gonna get killed.
for me. And so the law literally gives that as like past persecution or a well-founded fear of future persecution. So in cases like that, where it's like, listen, they didn't kill me, yeah, but I know I'm next on their list. Um, People can apply for asylum. So it's religion, political opinion, it's your agenda, your gender, PSG is a particular social group, and that it's if they can define, let's say, like black women in the corporate world, like it's a group that can be defined, and usually was used when like usually like in the ethnic wars in Africa, where it's like, okay, we don't like X people look like this, they have this color of skin, they have these like jawbones, they have these like, we are targeting those people. Yes. So it's one of those things. And people, the asylum law actually gives some people that have been victims of this or have a well-founded fear of being a victim of this the avenue to come to the US and seek refuge and get their status. And every time that I hear stories or I'm told stuff, that little girl in me that says that this is not fair, this is not well, comes out. So for me, it's kind of like a full circle moment. So to answer your question of how did it feel, it
Yeah.
felt overwhelming at first because I didn't even have the words. I just felt like it shouldn't be. Like there should be a way out. And then
Yeah.
growing up, it's like, oh yeah, you can be a lawyer and then you can advocate for people. And I'm just so grateful that I get to do that on a day to day.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're able to be a part of this particular industry and the journey through that, and having someone to step in and say, you know what, I can help. I can help. And here are the tools that we're going to use to help. One of the questions that, also came to mind, and I was thinking about like leadership, like in through all this, you are considered a leader.
Mm.
You have came from Ghana. Now you are here and you're in kind of the public eye. It's like a public servant,
Yeah.
field where people see you and they know what you're doing and so forth and so on. So, what is your take on leadership? Like, how do you go about in your leadership journey?
So the truth is everybody is a leader, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we lead ourselves.
that's right.
So we are all leaders. I think it's the challenge is when people have to notice and accept the fact that I'm actually a leader and start to work like that. Actually, it's a mindset. It's actually the consciousness of consciousness of it. That I'm actually a leader, and as a leader, XYZ is expected of me. And I find myself having to be very careful on social media, on LinkedIn, on everywhere, because we have opinions, right? And things
Mhm.
occurs. But the internet doesn't forget, and the internet is not forgiven. So we have to, especially as women of color, we need to be conscious in the way that we even articulate ourselves,
Yeah.
that it's direct, it's concise, but it's not just because sometimes the tendency is just to be extra because that's how we feel like it and saying things
Mhm.
bluntly. But then
Mhm.
the whole concept of leadership, the whole concept of people look up to you, the whole concept of that, and the bar is higher to be completely to be completely honest. Women of color, like immigrant, women of color, women in the corporate space, women, as you said, that are daring to be different, daring to do things. We
Yeah.
just have so much stacked against us, and the way that we do it is to slay with poise, with
Yes.
confidence, knowing that we are leaders and tapping into that. That means that when somebody, sometimes it's like opposing counsel in court, that's just the most ridiculous thing, and I just like roll my eyes back because then I think of my client, and I'm like, okay, I'm here to represent somebody. I'm here to win a case. I'm not here to, so let's focus on that. I think that's one other thing about leadership is focusing on the other. It's not
Yeah.
always about you. It's not always about how you feel. It's not always, but the idea of focus. And there's always another. In my case, and as an attorney, sometimes the other is my client. Sometimes so the other is just for the next other black person walking through the door. So that person I call a respect, because people tend to treat the next person how the other person was, and that's why sometimes we are unfortunately paying for. Sometimes as an attorney, I'm sometimes paying for other person's mistakes. So it's like, oh yeah, my other attorney did XYZ. And sometimes you have to sit with clients and earn their trust again, literally. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they're traumatized from what the other attorney did or XYZ. You have to be like, okay, let's take it different. Let's give each other a chance. Like, let's get to know each other. Let's get to understand. So that the concept of leadership is like there's a next person, there's an other, right? It's not always
Yeah.
about you in this moment, it's about the next person or the next opportunity.
Yeah, I absolutely love that concept of how you're sharing with it's not just about you. When you are a leader, and you, like you said, and reiterate, and I've said this quite often, is everyone is a leader.
Mm,
So you can be the leader of your household, you can be the leader of, again, yourself. I mean, there's so many different perspectives of leadership. But I love it when you're explaining that you're making it better, if you will, for the next woman,
absolutely.
especially Black woman, immigrant woman, who may be following in your footsteps, right? And showing them, giving them an example. If this is how you can, one, treat your clients, this is how you can take care of, the opposition, because there will always be opposition. It
Mm,
always, it doesn't matter, what industry you're in. If you're a leader in that, those things happen. So how are you going to handle yourself? How are you going to say, like you said, articulate, convey the right messages so that way that you're inviting people in as opposed to repelling them. So I love how you share that that's, the way that you think and how you're moving forward in this. You're young still, you're 30, okay? So Queen, y'all, you know what I'm saying? She got legs, right? She's got the energy. You are the right person to take this on. And I agree, that there's so many things that um happen, and but yet we can turn those things around. And Chevy
mhm,
says she agrees that everyone is a leader at every level.
absolutely.
So, we just have to remind ourselves that
Mhm,
all the time. And then you were talking about the mindset,
mhm,
of a leader, of
absolutely.
putting yourself there in the moment, right, as the leader. And I'm glad that you were able to gain, insight to that, because it is a mindset, right?
Mhm,
So as an attorney, um, dealing with, the temperature, okay, of the world, because it's getting hot, okay, very hot and
yeah.
steamy, and as we approach, in the next coming month or so. So, what is your mindset going in, and how do you help your clients? Because they're coming to you in desperation, if you will, at sometimes, right? With all this going on. So how are you able to manage that?
So I stay informed. I've been
Mhm.
staying informed because you need to hear, and even some of the things that legally we think is like impossible.
Yeah.
For example, like mass deportation within 11 is like okay, legally, but at least you stay informed because this is what I've learned recently. You cannot go to battle with somebody who knows more than you do. And that's why they
Mm,
say keep your what? Keep your friends close by your enemies closer. Right.
right.
You just need to know be in the know. So I come constantly being like just listening to the rhetoric. Like no matter how I don't use the word silly, but no matter how interesting it may
Interesting.
be, I listen. Number one, I just listen because the truth is that there's a lot going on and people are panicking and they're getting the panic from that. In order for me to help you manage your panic and give you proper legal advice, I need to understand the source of that. because that's the thing. Sometimes if you don't understand the source of why of what somebody is doing, it's hard to come in
Yeah.
and be like legally XYZ. Well, he has probably had the opposite on radio for the past 3 months. And I think is I honestly think it's deliberate. I honestly think it's deliberate. That constant rhetoric of we are coming for you, we are coming to deport you. I think it's actually deliberate. And when we saw Muhammad Ali do that when he was fighting, he used words on purpose.
He did.
And it happens all the time. If you can constantly keep saying something to someone, and I see this in my clients that come to me, if you can constantly keep saying something to somebody, initially the person can be like, no, that's not true. But if you are consistent and if you are constant, if you don't take care, the person will even start to believe the most absurd thing. Because after a while, the human body is phenomenal and the human body resists. But after a point, it gets into your subconscious. And you are thinking and you're then it's like, wait, am I this? Like I have people come and tell you that, oh yeah, he told me the most like emotional abuse happens and it's so cringeworthy. And I sit down when I'm like, did this just happen? And people sometimes you just have to give them hope. And it's like they even get to the point where it's hard for them to believe that there is hope. That they can actually move on without this person because people have mastered the act of doing that. But then I need to understand why they are so broken. I need to understand how they got to that point of thinking there's no more hope. So back
Yeah.
to question number one, I listen to all that's going on. And number two, I give them legal advice based with the understanding that unfortunately or fortunately policies change.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we are seeing right now. And when I give people legal advice, I'm like, listen, this is the law as of today, and I quote the day for you and it's being recorded because policies also change,
Yeah.
which is why it's a bit dangerous and a bit concerning where people are like, oh yeah, and I went to my cousin who did her papers 3 years ago. I'm like, that's great, but the laws have changed a lot 3 years ago, between 3 years
Yeah.
ago and now. So I listen and advise people and I also tell them that policies are changing, and which is why I also keep listening because I need to know what's in the known. USCIS is changing a lot of policies, things are being changed left, right, center. So I'm staying on top of that, but I'm also trying to give hope.
Mm.
Also trying to give hope because what I've come to understand is that a lot of times people don't know, but then their fear is actually worse than the immigration situation that they are in. To
Right.
be very
Right.
honest. And so sometimes I tell people like, you know what, I don't have any legal solution for you right now because of the way the law is set up right now. But let me give you hope. Okay,
Yeah.
because sometimes that's all people need. Sometimes people are going through, or they just need a strand of hope to hold on to know that okay, it's going to be okay. There's going to be tomorrow. I can sit this through. Because for example, if someone has a case pending in the court or in USCIS for a while, and you try your best to help them, and it's still pending, at that point, all you can give them is hope.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people are like, oh, I'm trying to petition for my family member, and I'm like, to be honest, the wait lines are long. That's the honest truth, and that's it. But at least give them hope, but it's not as bad. So that's another thing that I'm learning to do in this time, because most of our clients need hope.
Yeah.
These people that are out of immigration status right now, honestly, um because sometimes due to some legal reason, due to other stuff, there's just nothing that we can legally do to help them right now. It's the law is the law. That you are given a visa to come for XYZ months. After you overstay XYZ months, you just have very limited options after that.
Mm.
And I just tell you that that is the way the law is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also hard to tell people that, and sometimes people come to us like, yeah, because of like misinformation or something else, then they miss the timeline. And uh, I'm like, unfortunately, you missed it. We can wait till there's another possibility. But at that point, what the person needs is hope. What the person needs is, so how am I going to get through the season? How am I going to get through the night, wake up tomorrow, fight another battle? So that's one thing that I'm working on, and I'm learning to give people gracefully in this season hope.
Yeah. That's something that you can always choose to do,
Mhm.
right? Is to give people a little bit of hope. And I just absolutely love your points because I had to write them down to stay informed and be in the know. I just had a conversation with one of my girlfriends, and we were talking about all the things. And I said, but one thing that I do want to do is to make sure that I am checking out the news. All right.
Mm,
I want to know what's going on. I don't want to put my head in the sand. I don't want to be like buried and think that, it's just going to go away. And I've learned that over some time, of course, during my service, that when things look all crazy with a lot of confusions, very chaotic and so forth, it's important that you understand what's going on around you,
mm,
right? So that way you can take the necessary steps or actions to, I guess, prepare for whatever's to come. I think when people hear news, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, they're shocked. They don't want to hear it anymore. But then when you hear, 2 months later, all these things, like you said, there's things that are always constantly changing. Everything is changing all the time. We live in a digital age where things are constantly being updated and you're just like, oh my gosh. So you definitely need to keep up. So I love that a tip and that advice. And also, Stories of Unapologetic Confidence said she loves that. Keep your enemies closer. You need to know what their strategy move is against you. Absolutely. Because they will come, okay? The opposition, the people who don't want you necessarily to do whatever it is that you're doing, they will always be up against you for whatever reason. So,
mm,
um, as you have continued on in your journey, I also talk a little bit about branding, personal
mm,
branding, because I think that's important for us as women. Especially you said you're in your business, you started the business, then now you're back into the business now. So, what are some of your personal branding tips or strategies that you might be using right now to bring in more clients, to tell them what you do and how you do it? Do you have anything that you're using?
do you mean like social media or
Any of it, yeah, any of social medias, when you're networking.
yeah, so I do social media, I do LinkedIn, I do Facebook, I do Instagram, I do TikTok. And I also do with personal branding. I think one of the things I've learned is to be yourself. However, a lot of times when we
Yes.
say this, to be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of times we say be yourself and it just limits us, like, oh, this is who I am,
Yeah.
which is true. But
Yeah.
then also knowing that there's a better version of you that you need to get to, and I'm personally working on it. And one of my closest friends and critics is actually watching right now. If yeah, she's amazing, and you should get her on your show. She's really, really great, and she's
Uh-huh.
always talking to me about like your makeup. And then
Oh,
but because the truth is that, and she's right, the truth is that we live in an age where people are just attracted to flashy stuff. So if I don't know you and I don't know what you do, and I'm scrolling on Instagram, like, why will I pause to look at you? For some people, is your makeup. For some people, is your eyeshadow. For some people, is your hair. Like, and that's, to be completely honest. And then again, as women of color, there's so much. There's just so much that we have to do. We have to figure out like what colors we are choosing, color of hair. Like, there was so much that we have to choose. And it's funny because initially when I started like my videos and all, I was like, I went to law school to be an attorney. Okay. I want to help people. Like, but the truth is that you sometimes you can't help people if they don't know you, if they can't see you, and something has to pull them to you.
yes.
Something has to, and I see your pay, like you do an amazing job. All your flyers, I see like your nice fancy
Oh, thank you.
dresses with your makeup. I want to be like her one day. But I'm weird because when I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and I see your stuff, I like it because it drew my attention. And
Yeah.
this is even me knowing you and knowing how amazing you are. So
Oh,
imagine like a complete stranger who's like, who is this person? It's like, why will I even stop and even see? So I am personally admittedly still working on my personal brand. I think I I want to believe I've come a long way.
yeah. It's an evolution. I think
Yeah.
And I'll say for myself, I could see like every 7 to 8 years, something was changing.
Mm,
I started to really find who I was and what I particularly liked. And
mm,
I just leaned into that even more. I'm like, hey, as only one of me, I speak a certain language, I look a certain way. How can I enhance and refine that even more? How can I
mm,
bring that more out of me? So, and I think that, you'll find it
mm,
is an evolution,
mm,
right? I think all the time we think it's like we should just overhaul like all in
mm,
one big swoop, right? And we should all have it figured out. Our faces change over time, our body shapes, they
mm,
change, so there's a lot of things that are, so um that are being factored in. And so you have to do an assessment all the time. So,
mm,
but I absolutely love that you're finding out just to be you,
mm, mm.
finding you in all the things that you bring,
Right,
right?
right. One other thing that I do is that I'm Ghanaian and I speak Tree. Tree is one of the languages, and it's not the only, it's one of the languages. I do videos in Tree too, and I found that personal branding because I found that because then again I'm thinking of marketing, right? Because we are CEOs, we have to bring in client, and I'm thinking like what makes me stand out from the other immigration attorney, and
Yes.
for people is the fact that you speak my language, because I've literally had I don't know why I'm laughing though, but I've had people come to me and be like, oh yeah, I went to another attorney, but I didn't feel as comfortable. I really couldn't express it because they spoke only English and I'm not as educated. My English is not as fluent.
Yeah.
Um, and so that has been something that has drawn some people to me is like, wait, I don't have to speak English with you, because we and and then they get comfortable, and that's another thing that when somebody is has an immigration situation, they're already in a tough spot in their life.
That's right.
If they've been through trauma, if they're a victim of like abuse and all, they're already in a tough spot of their life. So at that point, they just need welcoming. They just need hope.
Yeah.
If for them, it's like I can come and I can speak your language. We speak the same language, and I don't have to just brush up. I can just the way I am broken. And especially if somebody has been a victim of abuse, like they're already broken as it is. They're like, listen, this is it. These are the facts. This is what I went through. I don't have to translate in my mind from a local language to English to communicate with my attorney. Like I can just speak what she speaks, and then again, so it's the cultural part too.
That's right.
Because when we speak about a lot of many of our clients, when we speak about abuse, um most for most of our I'm Ghanaian, and in the Ghanaian culture, most of it is like, you know, pray on it, or
Mhm.
he'll be fine, or it will work out. Just take it easy, and stuff like that. But and which I get and I respect and it's culture and all, but for me, the lawyer in me is like, no, this is legally wrong, and there's a legal avenue you can take. Uh,
Yeah.
so I that for me that's another thing that I bring to the table too because I really genuinely understand when people are saying stuff and I'm like I get it 100 million%. However, there's a legal avenue for you, right?
Yeah.
And then that's another thing about culture too. Culture evolves, and for
Mhm.
us as immigrants, it's interesting because we bring our culture here, but for example, to the best of my knowledge, there's no VAWA in Ghana. Like immigration is not an issue there. There's nothing that gives you a green card in
Mhm.
Ghana when you've been abused. So then, for example, if you've been abused, they tell you to stay in your marriage, take care of your kids because there's no legal avenue. There is one here. So that's another funny thing about culture we have to be careful on, especially as immigrants. As we go to new places and we carry our culture, is what are the legal avenues? Because if I have a legal
Mhm.
avenue for something here that exists that didn't exist back home,
Right.
I will take advantage of it. And it's not that the only reason that, let's say, my mom or my grandmom didn't tell me about it was because it wasn't there. So that's
Right.
nothing that I keep telling people. It's like, yes, I get our culture and it's cute and all. However, there are legal avenues here. We see it for so many things out of migration, even things like abuse in general, or even like with kids and stuff like that. I'm like, if you are in a land that has legal avenues for you, and
Yeah.
you can take advantage of it,
Yeah.
please do. Culture notwithstanding, it doesn't mean that, or even religion, right? I'm extremely religious. Um, But sometimes I tell people, I'm like, yes, you pray on it or you do all of those stuff. But if there's a legal avenue that immediately protects you, please take advantage of it. And
Yeah,
still pray. I don't think it's God is going to be like, listen, you did X, Y, Z, so I'm not going to listen to your prayers.
exactly.
You took advantage of the laws that were there to protect you as you should. So that's another thing I found about culture, about my branding, is like just letting people know that okay, that I understand the culture, but in the same vein, there are legal avenues that you should absolutely take advantage of if you genuinely qualify.
Yeah. That's why, you just explained it in its entirety. What I was, going to point to the things that we already have in existence that we can do naturally. And it is a unique value proposition. It's like no one else on the team can can speak the language like you're speaking of yours, and really taking care of your community, taking care of the people that you understand because you are them, right? So I absolutely love that you're finding, especially at a young age, and even stories of unapologetic confidence says you are so wise.
Thank
This
you.
is the best version of ourselves. Some people think they can show up busted and disgusted. Okay. We should always try to show up in our best self.
Mm,
Always. And
mm,
from a holistic point of view, and I talk about, from a physical, mental, social, intellectual, financial, occupational, all these different dimensions of wellness. These are what makes us as who we are and how we show up in the world.
mm,
So if we are lacking on any of those particular areas, that's when we show up busted and disgusted. Okay. Because we don't know. Like,
mm, mm,
because so you have to have a certain temperament to be an attorney.
mm.
That's just the way it is, right? You have to have a certain temperament because if not, you wouldn't have any clients, right? You wouldn't have the right clients. I would say that too, right? You're not just looking for anybody to represent.
Mm,
You're
mm,
looking for the right people, but sometimes people come up short
mm,
because they're missing out on some things.
mm,
So I absolutely love when you say, like the best version of yourself, like showing up in that, being able to communicate in such a way where people are like, yeah, like I need her. I need her to help me. And it is cultural differences. I have had a number of women from different countries here on the show, and always talking about the differences between here in the States and whatever country that
mm.
they have been raised in or grew up in. So given that context is certainly something that's very beneficial for the audience to hear. Now, you have nonprofits as well. So I was just like, this woman is just off the chains. Okay. She's not only in the attorney lane, but you also got a nonprofit. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I am privileged, I would say, to be around a couple of special needs kids, and it's a lot. The toll it takes on the caregivers emotionally, physically, and I wouldn't say financially for a reason. It's a lot, and in the states, I'll say we are privileged in all honesty, because for example, I live in Massachusetts and Mass Health is great. And Mass Health covers so many things. Mass Health covers ABA. ABA is I f- it's what, like, if a kid is on the spectrum, it's a center for like it takes them there. They are there like the whole day. Mass, it's covered by insurance. If they need, covered by Mass Health. If they need like speech therapy, OT, all of that, it's covered. If you're in the public school system, they get IEP, and in that IEP, these kids, and public schools are free, those schools, and in the IEP, um they can get speech, they can get OT. Like, the system is literally like, let's help caregivers, let's
Yeah.
help these kids. Is the system broken? It is broken, but at least, like, you can tell at least the intent to help these kids. I can't say the same in Ghana. And you
Mm.
can't even imagine adding financial toll on top of the physical, the emotional drain that a caregiver for a kid of special needs. And for me, it breaks my heart because I see it and I'm like, well, at least I don't have to bother about ABA, to be completely honest, right? These the kids get picked up from ABA, I mean, with a bus, covered again by insurance. They are sent to parents can drop them if they want. But at least in this country, it's like we get that you are going through a lot. The least we can do is to give these resources to just help. And
Yeah.
and in Ghana, to the best of my knowledge, like there's none. So then you have parents and kids, I'm religious, and every good and perfect gift comes from God. Kids are amazing blessings, but sometimes these blessings maybe have special needs, right?
Mhm.
And then the parents or the guardians have to deal with it. And can you just imagine the financial toll of just taking them to appointments, speech therapy, occupational therapy? Because on paper, Ghana has the National Health Insurance Scheme. On paper, great. But how much of these do they cover?
Mm.
Like what is being covered? Because a lot of times you go to hospital, they cover X, they don't cover Y. So it's not they don't cover everything. So then the onus lies on the parent. The catch though is that if you're a parent of a special needs kid, because the kid has gazillion appointments which they need, you probably can hold down a full-time job. And we see it in this country. We see guardians of special, and that's why some get to social security because the system, back to the system, is in such a way that let's help, let's assist. Is it flawed? People can argue with this, but at least there's something in place, at least there's an intention.
Yeah.
Go back to Ghana, right? You have this special needs kid that you probably have to take for OT, and most of them need a variety of resources ongoing, right? Like we probably take them to OT like once a week, speech like once a week because they need it, because some of them are nonverbal and they need it, and maybe AB or wherever that they go to. And even like IEPs and like schools, and the fact that the schools here, like by law and IEPs, like by law they're supposed to have it once a year. Oh, a payment can request it, and it happens. Like it's like there are things in place to assist parents in that situation. To the best of my knowledge, Ghana is just like, "Whoop, too bad, whoopsie,
Mm.
you're
Mm.
screwed, too bad." And then to the point that most of these payments can hold on and jump because you're the same person. If you're going to OT and speech and ABE, and some of them also have, some of them have things like Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, so they're in and out of hospitals, in and out of
Yep.
appointments. How are you going to hold on a full-time job or a job that pays you enough for these things? So then a lot of times the payments are honestly out of cash, like they don't. And then, for example, the way there's like social security here to step in to give, like, here is physical cash. No, mass health again, like I know in Massachusetts, for example, there's this autism waiver program that's great in Massachusetts. And I know that, for example, they provide respite. Shout out to my friend Afia, she has a home care agency, Asha, and they have, they're really great, amazing respite providers. And the whole idea is that they can come into the home, so you get 2 hour 2 hours to go do your nails,
Right.
take a nap, go to a
Right.
job, something. There's none of that. So then when I look at the difference in the resources that parents, kids in this country that have special needs of all like all manner, right? Like at least there's something in place to help them. In Ghana, it's just like, oh, too bad.
Mm.
Sort it out yourself. By the
Yeah.
way, here's your bill. And to OT, I don't know how you're gonna make it, but here's, and you're paying for OT out of pocket, you're paying for this out of pocket. So in an ideal world, it would be great if like it's brought up on a level, like let's say like the way Massachusetts does, but it's not. So it's up to individuals. Or like that's why I opened a nonprofit to help them, because it's just really sad. Like it's just the financial strain that
Yeah.
parents with special needs kids have to go through in Ghana is it's a lot. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
So I just figured that. And I think it's because that I've seen it, right? And I know the way it is here, and I know the toll it takes on parents, and it's like at least finances is not going to make the child better, but it's going to help the parent, or something. If you give them money, if you give them anything that you can give, they would be so grateful. So that's when I always wanted to open an orphanage too. I don't know why I wanted to open an orphanage, but I also wanted to do that. So that's something I'm just doing. But with the special needs kids, is honestly from a personal point, I've just seen it, and it's like it's tough, and it's just really hard. And if there's any help that you can give a parent in that, or a child in that situation, I think it's a good cause. So that's honestly why I opened that nonprofit.
Yeah, again, you're at a young age and you're doing so much, but not just anything. You know
Mm,
what I mean? These are very passionate, purpose driven
mm,
missions that you are being a part of. So, special needs and opening up an orphanage. These are kind of these socioeconomic communities that people don't really understand or embrace as much,
mm,
because you're not affected. Okay. So if you're not affected by that, then it's like a never,
mm,
like never mind, it's out of sight, out of mind, and you just go on with your day.
mm,
Right. But it does really truly show that when you have, children, family members, or so forth, that have to have these special, caring services that they need, and it costs money to get all these things, lots of money. And I do recall a time I used to be a first sergeant in the military, Benedicta. There's a person that they assign to take care of all of, like, health and wellness, the morale of all of the airmen, their families, and so forth and so on. And that was my exposure. I was a medic for a long time, but I really got exposure to families who had special needs children, and
mm,
what it took, like the referrals to go to different
mm,
hospitals
mm,
and to get off early so they can go and take their children to,
mm,
certain doctor's appointments, and the equipment that they needed.
mm,
It was like this world that I had never seen. And so when you're speaking to it, it brings me back to, there is so much to be done. And
mm,
you are living in the state of Massachusetts, where they have this system, and as you said, it's broken, and most systems are. But they have a system, at least, to where they are providing, all these different services where the child can thrive,
mm,
and be able to enjoy the life that they were given to the best of their ability, and the people around it are mostly affected. So I give you mad props for that. I'm saying right now, because that is something that is it's again, it's a very, you have to have the right passion for that,
mm,
and having an orphanage. So my brother, we haven't really talked, I haven't really talked about, too much about him, but he's, finally getting to the age where he's sharing. So I'm not sharing anything that,
mhm.
other people, or he's not already shared, but he was adopted, and he was in an orphanage. Um,
Interesting.
and so, he was adopted at a very young age. And I remember going into the orphanage where he was at, and it was not designed for a child to actually be able to even be raised in that environment. I don't know how, and especially he was in Portugal.
Mm,
So it's, the culture and the way that they deemed children, and how he was taken in. I still remember it to this day.
mm,
And it is something that always comes to my mind is, the children, they don't have anything to say. They
mm,
don't get to choose where they go when they're a very young age. It's
mm,
just they're of the state, and however they take care of those types of children. So I appreciate you sharing all the things. And of course, we're at the top of the hour. We're always at the top of the hour
Of
when we get
course.
into conversation. Always. And hey, Karen, tuning in from LinkedIn.
Hi.
So she said hashtag slay ladies. Hey, Karen, thank you so much for being here live and dropping in real quick. We're at the top of the hour. So if you want to go back and watch the entire show, you can, or you may have been here and you just had an opportunity to share a comment. So I appreciate that too. Um, so what would you like to share with the audience before we leave for tonight? I have one more question for you, but before we leave for tonight, what would you like to share?
Um, just hope. I think I'm at this point. I'm in just a place of hope. Just hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a way forward. A lot of sometimes
Mm.
people are in situations where they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, but there's always a way forward. And there are amazing people like you out there giving people a platform, and just know that there's also people willing to help. And sometimes it's hard for people to actually know that and like accept that, oh, they're actually people, but there are people actually willing to help, to assist, to give mentorship, and just know and just embrace that there's hope. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are getting to a point where they are losing hope, and I just
Mm.
like to remind people that there's hope, there's a way
Yeah.
forward.
There is a way forward, and I too agree with you. Hope is one of those things that we definitely have to pay more attention to and bring that into our hearts, into our minds more so now because of the, again, what's going on in the world. We can't change a lot of things that happen, but we can change the way that we respond.
Mm,
So, choose the better way to do that, and that's providing the hope. And I absolutely love that. Karen said, "Hey everyone, love your insights and thank you so much. You're welcome."
mm,
Okay, so my last question for you before we leave is, you know, all of us are going to get to a point, hopefully, in our age, in our life, where we're like having these birthday parties, and I envision getting to 80. Okay, because I'm like I got about what less than 30 years. I got about 28 years until I get
okay.
to 30. But at your 80th birthday party, and you have your family and your friends around, what do you want them to say about you?
That I gave them hope, that I actually impacted. Another thing that's I've been thinking about lately is impact, how
Yeah.
to impact people, impact you as a person, or it may be large scale. So I was thinking this morning about like my foundation, about families that I'm going to do stuff for. And I was like, I want to increase it. I want to increase the number of, because I think that as we wouldn't be here forever. That's the fact of life. But I want people to be like, listen, there was this woman that helped me, and there was a woman that impacted me. So I'm thinking of how to give people lasting impacts. I think for me, that's where I am as an attorney. I want them to remember, like, listen, this attorney worked on my case, and not only did she help me win an immigration case, but she left a lasting impression on me, my friends, my family. So I want people to say that I genuinely loved them. Number one, genuinely loved them, genuinely cared, and number three, actually impacted them. I'm curious. How about you?
I agree. Look, I'm with you with all that you said. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Like that is all the things too. In fact, my word for 2025 is going to be impact. So I
Mm,
pick a word every year. Last year was build. Because I said, I'm building a business and,
mhm,
doing all these different things. But I truly want to impact others as well, and I help women to transform, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mindset. We are capable to do whatever we want to do. We just have to know here's our plan, and here's
mhm,
some goals, right? Here's how we're going to get there. And making it for a long lasting. I'm not that type of person to leave my people. I'm
Mm,
like you, very genuine, sincere, and
mm,
to have this, long relationship that is meaningful.
mm.
So I am with you. You're part of the Slay to Success community.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever, whatever you need and however you need it, you just let me know. But I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing, especially in your early journey, because you're very early and you got a ways to go. And I know you're going to be impacting and transforming lives, in the next 20, 30 years. So you got a ways to go, Queen. And so we had Chevy here that was live. Thank you so much for being here. Stories of Unapologetic was here. We also had Karen drop in. And then we have Afia, and then we had Nation Lender that are in the studio.
Mm,
Okay, so they're in the background. So I wanted to thank them for being a part of the show tonight. And then Chevy said she has to pick her word for 2025. Yes, y'all. Okay, so listen, I'm gonna share one lasting tip before we leave. I did I stopped doing the whole resolution thing
mm.
probably about maybe 5, 6 years ago because you put down things. I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. I'm gonna,
Gonna
you know,
hit the gym.
yeah, I'm gonna stop shopping so much and all this other stuff, right? And it never worked for me because I just fall back into things that, there were kind of these habits that I had. And they're
Mm,
not that bad habits because I'm not like in debt and,
mm.
I don't need to lose 10 pounds. I think I look pretty decent.
You look
But
amazing.
but I did want to pick a word. Thank you, Queen. I wanted to pick a word that I could insert at any point for whatever I'm doing
Mm,
and focus on that one word and
mm,
do all some deliberate intentional actions around it. So build for me was like build the platform, build the shows, build relationships. It was just all these different entities and now impact, and it's like impact communities, which communities, um, how is that impact? What is it going to be? So
mm,
these are the things that we can start to do for ourselves because then we don't beat ourselves up
mm.
when we say, "Oh, I was gonna lose these 10 pounds, I still carry around 10 pounds. I
What
gained
happened was that.
this year." It doesn't work anymore. Let's do some things that are very realistic now, So and being very, I mean, I think in the mind too to create a different neural pathway for us.
Mm, mm.
Okay, so Chevy said, great conversation, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, y'all. So we will be back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this show. Or if you want to see me earlier, you will see me on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Rise and Slay morning show, just to give you some encouragement and hope, like he said, so you can have that throughout your week. So again, thank you, Benedicta, for being here for
Thank
all that you
you.
do. You're welcome. And keep on slaying, everybody, until you can't slay no more. And we'll see you all very soon. Have a great
Awesome.
week.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.